The level of debt accumulation in China in recent years is something never seen before in the country's history. The ratio between the country's total debt and its gross domestic product has already reached 300% and reached the level of the United States. The credit market expansion in the country ended up extending to several sectors of the economy, and one of the main beneficiaries was the real estate sector. According to some experts, the expansion and boom in the real estate sector was so intense that it has already gotten out of control, and the country has become the biggest real estate bubble in history and the world, surpassing the cases of Japan and the United States. But this year, the bubble appears to be bursting, or at least giving financial market participants a shock, with the possible bankruptcy filing of the country's second largest corporation, China Evergrande, taking over global news. But do you know what is the risk behind Evergrande and why the panic took over the financial market and stock exchanges around the world? Let's understand more in this video about Evergrande and why China can be considered the biggest real estate bubble in the world. But before that, make sure to subscribe to this new channel to see more videos that will cover, analyze, and reveal economic aspects behind countries' successes and failures, and other economic interesting facts around the world. The real estate sector in China is one of the largest sectors of the country's economy, and consequently of the world, given the proportion of the country's economy. According to Article 10 of the Chinese Constitution, all land in China's cities belong to the state. Furthermore, until the late 1980s, all residential properties were essentially state-owned. In the 90s, liberalization began in the country, but markets remained relatively small until 1998, when the Chinese government approved the land management law that reshaped the country's real estate market and increased the participation and importance of local governments on it. In 1998, the Communist Party granted local governments control of land in their geographic jurisdictions and allowed local governments to sell the rights to use these lands to third parties. Thus, the private market emerged and began the main source to develop real estate projects in the country. New home sales, for example, increased significantly and in 2015 were more than 6 times the size of the US market. Another reason for the deep involvement of local governments in the real estate market is the budget law enacted in 1995, which prohibits local governments from running budget deficits or obtaining external financing. Thus, the sale of land use rights by local governments is basically one of the main sources of funds for these governments. All these transactions are basically carried out through a financial arrangement known as the Local Government Financing Platform, or LGFP, which allows local governments to borrow indirectly using this sale of land use rights. This ends up encouraging local governments to create districts and new real estate projects, often generating China's famous ghost towns, which are entire cities built and unoccupied or sparsely populated. Well, having understood a little more about the history of China's real estate market and how it works, let's go to the latest numbers and the case of Evergrande. The best way to describe China's concern about the country's real estate market is in President Xi Jinping's policy and phrase, "Houses are for living in, not for speculating," spoken at the 19th National Congress of the Communist Party in 2017. According to a survey conducted by Harvard University's economist Kenneth Rogoff, the real estate sector in China accounts for 29% of the country's gross domestic product. In other words, almost 1/3 of the country's economy is related to the real estate market. Furthermore, according to data from the Household Wealth Report of the China Economic Trends Research Institute, real estate accounts for approximately 71% of Chinese household wealth. Finally, the banking sector and the financial system are very exposed to the real estate sector. In this Evergrande case alone, 171 domestic banks and another 121 financial institutions could be affected. Therefore, any problem that happens in this sector has the potential to trigger risk aversion and generate a crisis of global proportions. Let's now better understand this China Evergrande case. China Evergrande is one of the largest real estate companies in the world. To give you an idea of its size, the company is on the Fortune Global 500 list, which brings together the 500 largest companies in the world according to revenue. In 2021, the company occupied the 122nd position. Furthermore, According to BBC News, it is the most indebted real estate developer in the world. It has a debt of 300 billion US dollars. This is higher than Chile's GDP, according to data from the International Monetary Fund. Another interesting fact involving the company is that its owner and founder, Mr. Xu Jian, was once the richest person in China. And in 2020, he was in 5th position according to the latest survey by the Huron Research Institute, with a personal fortune estimated at 34.6 billion US dollars. However, the crisis involving the company decimated his fortune. On August 31st, Evergrande released a note with the results for the first half of 2021, where it also said on page 26 that the group had risks of loan defaults and possible litigation cases outside the normal course of its business. This was enough to trigger fear and doubts about the company's situation and its massive debt, which caused its share price to drop more than 93% from its all-time high of 32 Hong Kong dollars per share to 2.27 Hong Kong dollars per share. Financial stress also spread into other sectors. The iron ore market, a commodity closely related to the real estate sector, which had already been feeling a weakness, collapsed once and for all, with its price dropping more than 50%. In the fixed income market, trading in the company's bonds was suspended. In addition, two of the main rating agencies, Moody's and Fitch, downgraded the company's credit rating in addition to putting other companies in the sector on watch. To visualize the size of the damage and irrationality that the real estate market can cause in a country, we can look again at the ghost towns of China, and now the cases of several Evergrande projects and buildings that are being torn down and imploded because it ends up making more economic sense in demolishing the buildings than finishing their construction. It's really insane, but that's how it works. This then is China's real estate bubble, which may or may not burst, giving only a scare to investors, banks, and the financial market, and which, when it recovers, may continue to inflate even more. The truth is, no one knows how far bubbles and financial excesses can go. Well, now that you know a little more about Evergrande and why China can be considered the biggest real estate bubble in the world, help this channel by saying what other countries or economic subjects you'd like us to analyze. Leave your answer in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our new channel for new videos where we will cover, analyze, and reveal economic aspects behind countries' successes and failures, and other economic interesting facts around the world. Oh, and don't forget to activate the bell to stay on top of the news on this channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Until then.